And welcome to the Taylor Show. This is my first episode of this podcast, and I'm attending Winthrop University, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the Winthrop men's basketball team, even though they had a loss, 87 to 79 against NC State. Jimmy Gavin scored 38 points, but Cap Barber had a career high of 37, which led NC State to a win. So I hope they do well on Tuesday and be able to beat Charleston Southern. And on to college football. This is rivalry week, and yesterday we saw Iowa beat Nebraska to move to 12-0, and TCU beat Baylor 28-21 in overtime in a downpour in Fort Worth. And on to some of the picks. We got number 8 Ohio State versus number 10 Michigan. Michigan's defense is ranked number 2 in total defense, and I think Jim Harbaugh will get his guys ready to go with Ohio State having Ezekiel Elliott and JT Barrett and them not really playing for one another. I think Michigan will be a little too much for Ohio State today, and I'm picking Michigan to win. The next game, we have number 1 Clemson versus South Carolina. Deshaun Watson, Wayne Gallman, and Artavis Smith. That's a really good offense right there for Clemson. And I think the Clemson's defense with Mackenzie Alexander, Shaq Lawson, and Ben Boulware will be way too much for South Carolina, and Dabo Swinney will get his first win in Columbia and destroy South Carolina. The second game, Penn State versus Michigan State. It's unsure if Connor Cook is ready to play, but if not, Tyler O'Connor will start for him and he'll be ready to play. He ended up leading Michigan State over a win in Ohio State last week. So I think Penn State, they're not really ready for Michigan State right now, even though the series is tied 14-14 and one tie. They have lost the last 2 to Michigan State, and Michigan State will be too much and be ready to win and go and play Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. And the next game on the slate is number 14, North Carolina versus NC State. Jacoby Brissett for NC State is a really good quarterback. He is a transfer from Florida, and I think he would play really well in this game. He is having a great season, and his running back Matthew Days and his wide receiver Jalen Samuels will be a real big deal in this game against North Carolina. And even though North Carolina has Marquise Williams and Elijah Hood that are playing really well, I think NC State will pull off an upset and will beat North Carolina and ruin their chances of possibly making it into a playoff if they beat Clemson. The next game is the Iron Bowl. We got Auburn versus number 2 Alabama. With Alabama, I think Alabama will destroy Auburn in this game. With Heisman hopeful Derrick Henry, he is looking really good this year, but Auburn will be up for the challenge. I think it will still be a blowout. The last blowout in the Iron Bowl was in 2011 and 2012 when Alabama beat Auburn 42-14 in 2011 and 49-0 in 2012. And this might happen if Gus Malzahn doesn't get his boys ready to play today. And the next game, you got number 22 UCLA versus USC. This is the battle of LA. And UCLA has won the last 3 meetings, and I think freshman Jake Rosen will be up for the challenge, and they will get it done in LA. The next game, number 18 Ole Miss and number 21 Mississippi State. Ole Miss is looking for Alabama to lose today, so they'll have a chance of winning and going into the SEC championship game to play Florida. But I think a little bit too much of Dak Prescott in his final game as a senior in the Egg Bowl and at home at Mississippi State. I think he'll get it done and beat the Ole Miss Rebels. And the 13th ranked Florida State Seminoles versus the 12th ranked Florida Gators. Florida's defense is playing pretty well. They have a few injuries, but we got cornerback Vernon Hargraves that is going to have to stop Bobo Wilson on the outside for Florida State. And Dalvin Cook for Florida State is really going to be a tough man to tackle. He's averaging over 8 yards per carry, but Sean McGuire is going to get the ball to him, and we're going to see how Dalvin Cook does. I think he'll at least rush for 150 today, and he'll have a good game. And Florida's offense needs to step up, whether it's Treon Harris, Calvin Taylor, somebody. They need an offense, and they need somebody to step up today if they want to win and beat Florida State. But I'm actually taking Florida today because of their defense. And the next game, we got number 3 Oklahoma versus number 11 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma, they're still got Mayfield and Perion is gonna play today, and Oklahoma State, I think Mason Rudolph and Emmanuel Ogbah on the defense will be pumped up and will be ready to play against Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma last year 38-35, and I think they'll be pumped up because of their loss last week against Baylor 45-35, and those boys will be ready to play. It's rivalry week, and I think Oklahoma will lose today to Oklahoma State in the late game. In the last game, we have Notre Dame, number 6 Notre Dame versus number 9 Stanford. Notre Dame has had lots of injuries this year, and there's been 2 more injuries coming up with CJ Prosise not being able to play, and also Kevon Russell, a cornerback, he won't be able to play. So those are 2 tough losses for Notre Dame. But Josh Adams, the freshman running back, will have to step up for Notre Dame today against Stanford and be able to play. And Deshaun Kaiser on the offensive side needs to be able to get the ball to Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller will be the impact player of this game, and Will Fuller will have to make some key catches to beat Stanford. On Stanford's side, we got Kevin Hogan, the quarterback, who's playing decent this year. He's having a pretty good season. And we got McCaffrey, the running back. He has rushed for over 1,500 yards and 7 touchdowns and over 400 yards receiving. So McCaffrey is a do-it-all guy, and that's who Notre Dame needs to stop. If they can stop Kevin Hogan and McCaffrey, I think they'll be able to win, and I'm picking Notre Dame to win this game. And some of the scenarios of the playoffs, we end up having, if Penn State can beat Michigan State or Michigan State wins, it'll pull up a game with Michigan State and Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. And this will see who will actually make it into the 14 playoff if it's Michigan State and Iowa State. But if Michigan State ends up losing today and we have either Ohio State beating Michigan, that means Ohio State will play Iowa, and the winner of those 2 maybe can make it into the playoffs, maybe not. But if Michigan beats Ohio State and Michigan State loses and Michigan plays Iowa and they beat Iowa, it'll be crazy. And we'll most likely see it'll be a tough call for the committee, but we can see a 2-loss Michigan team maybe getting into the 4-team playoff. And with UNC still has a chance, some people think. If they could beat NC State today and maybe beat number 1 Clemson, they may have a few talks because there'll be an ACC championship game. But I think the 1 loss they have to South Carolina might hurt them, and I don't think they'll be able to get in. The Florida Gators, if Florida can win today over Florida State and still and be able to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. I don't think they'll be able to get in even though they're an SEC champion. I think that Florida's offense and things like that won't allow them to be able to make the playoff, but it'll be a good chance. It'll be crazy to see if a SEC team not in the 14 playoff because they're a SEC champion, but look for that game. And in Stillwater with Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, if Oklahoma State can beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 championship game, then it'll be crazy to see Oklahoma State maybe get into the playoff. They will have wins over Oklahoma and TCU that look really good, but then they'll have to jump over some teams that are ahead of them. And with number 6, Notre Dame, this is the big thing. Most people don't think that Notre Dame rules their own destiny, and they don't. They need some teams to lose. Well, if Michigan State and Iowa play each other, one of those teams will be in, but they really need Oklahoma State this week to beat Oklahoma. So I think they can get in if Oklahoma State wins that game. And that's the 14 playoff, and this is the end of the Taylor Show. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. We'll see you next week.